Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we could not be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Fred Blumer with Mile Auto. Welcome, Fred.
Lee, a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about Mile Auto. How are you serving folks?
You bet. So Mile Auto is a pay-per-mile auto insurance company. So we provide insurance to low-mileage drivers, folks that have an extra car, folks that maybe walk to work, people that just don't drive a lot. We have a solution for them that allows them to only pay for the miles that they drive.
So now, how do you keep track of that?
So there are other companies in the market that plug little black box tracking devices in your car, which we think are terribly invasive. There's some that use GPS tracking on your mobile phone, which we don't like as either from a privacy perspective. At Mile Auto, we create a monthly reminder with a text or email message. There's a hyperlink in it. Our customers click on that. It opens their camera. They hold it in front of their odometer and simply take a picture. And that's it.
So now, how does it work like if I'm driving my spouse's car?
Yep. So it doesn't matter which car it is because there's no mobile app to download. So it doesn't matter if you have a certain phone in your car or don't have it. We don't track your daily driving. All we get is a monthly mileage number that we convert into an insurance premium.
So if you were going to be the insurance carrier for me, my wife, and my 20-year-old kid, and we each have a area, how would that work?
Yep. So it just depends on how you register it. But anybody in the family, in fact, if let's say we're in your grandmother's car too, anyone can go and take a picture of her odometer with our solution. So when our customers get a text and email reminder, that reminder is encoded with a particular code for a particular vehicle. If you've got 3 vehicles in the household, all 3 of the vehicles would show up in that email reminder, and you would simply click on the vehicle. It opens the camera. You take a picture. You click on the next one. It opens the camera. Take a picture. If that vehicle is not there, or if it's at someone else's home, then you could just forward that email or text to them. They can click on it and take the picture as well. So very flexible, very simple, and it's easy to keep up with.
Now, is this work, I would imagine the low mileage, like you mentioned, are the way to go. Is there kind of a number like, once you pass 12,000 miles or 15 or whatever that number is, then it kind of stops making sense to go to Mile Auto?
Yeah, so the average mileage for a typical car in the United States is about 13,000 miles a year. So our focus is on drivers that drive vehicles 10,000 miles a year and less. And of course, since we are pay per mile, the fewer miles you drive, the less you will pay. So clearly somebody that drives 8,000 or 9,000 miles, it can be compelling. You might save 15 to 20% over what you might pay to Geico or Progressive. For customers that have cars that maybe drive 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles a year, the savings can be significant. It might be 30, 40, even 50%.
And then the coverage, though, will be just like those larger insurance firms that might be on a Stadium or on a phone book?
Coverage would be identical, except we're so much better, Lee. We have a great claims team. We treat our customers with dignity and respect. But no, the coverages would all be the same. I mean, anything from the minimum limits coverages all the way up to $500,000 combined single limit. Anything that your current insurance company would insure your car for, we can do the same.
So now, what is the backstory? How did this come about?
Yep. So I was one of the founders of another great Atlanta company that was called Hughes Telematics. We founded that company back in 2005, and we built connected vehicle systems. And when I say connected vehicle systems, think things like OnStar types of systems. But we built those systems for companies like Mercedes-Benz, VW, Nissan, and Chrysler. And once we had launched the Mercedes-Benz program, I was fascinated by connected vehicle and connected driver data. So if you have a car with a connected vehicle system in it, you're sharing an enormous amount of personal and vehicle and driving behavior data. So I went out into the market while I was still at Hughes Telematics and looked to see who might be interested in that type of data. Pretty quickly fell into the insurance industry, worked with most of the top 10 insurance companies in the United States, but then focused on State Farm, the largest insurance company in the U.S., and designed and built State Farm's usage-based insurance program called Drive Safe and Save.
So then from there, this was your own kind of vision for a similar type of offering?
Yep. So again, this was still at Hughes. We took the company public in 2009 by means of a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. That was back before anybody had heard of.
Right, before it was cool. You were doing it before it was cool.
So we did that back in 2009, and then Hughes Telematics was acquired by Verizon in 2012. And so, one of my responsibilities, and this is really what triggered our new technology and what we're doing today, one of my responsibilities was replying to subpoenas for data from courts, from connected vehicle and connected driver data. And of course, you might assume, yes, car accidents, we can see how courts and litigation might want that. But we also received requests in divorce cases, things like, where was my husband sleeping on August the 12th? Or child custody cases. I think my wife picks up the kids and goes to a bar on the way home. So pretty intrusive types of data. And once we had sold Hughes Telematics to Verizon, I decided I never wanted to be in any business that invades people's privacy like that, number one. And number two, I didn't want to be in the business of plugging hardware into cars. So we had what's called an OBD device, an onboard diagnostic device that consumers would plug into their car. And that's how we would track them and their car and their driver behavior, their speed, time of day, day of week, cornering, braking, acceleration, all kinds of things like that. And, we knew things like where your car and where you would sleep at night. And I said, I don't want to be in the hardware business and don't want to be intrusive into consumers' lives. And so after that acquisition, I found a really smart electrical engineer here in Atlanta who had a background in cell tower generated mobility data. And the two of us came up with a number of patents that have been issued for collecting and validating odometer data in cars. And so without any hardware, without any black box, without any GPS tracking. So that's really the genesis of how we got started.
So you're kind of going almost full circle because of the unintended consequences of capturing that kind of data. You didn't like how it was being used or how different entities were using it that maybe you weren't thinking about when the idea came about?
So, Lee, that's right. In fact, it was more like we came full circle twice. So once we came up with this technology, and again, this is typical in the startup world about how you have to pivot. Once we came up with the technology, we went back out to all the insurance companies that I had worked with while I was at Hughes and said, look, we know you all agree. In fact, I left this out, that with all of those intrusive systems that insurance companies plug into your car, the most important data element they can collect is miles driven. So just how much time does a car on the road? Cars in garages don't have wrecks. And so about 70 to 75% of the underwriting value of that data is simply, how many miles per year or per month or per day does this car operate? So once we had come up with those, with that new technology and had the patents filed, they hadn't issued at that time, we went back out to all my friends in the insurance industry and all the big insurance companies and said, look, we've solved for this mileage data. Don't you want to license our new technology? And the answer was, unfortunately, a unanimous no.
We like this other data better. Thank you.
Well, no, actually, they said, look, we agree that mileage data is the most important data. But number one, we don't know how to accommodate that type of data in our legacy systems, in our legacy software systems. So I'm like, okay, I understand that. But the second thing is the dirty secret in U.S. auto insurance. And they said, we don't want low mileage drivers to understand that for generations, we've overcharged them and forced them to subsidize high mileage drivers. And I thought, well, that makes sense too. If I were overcharging customers, I wouldn't want them to know that either. And so once we surveyed the industry and realized that that was a unanimous no, I had an advisor friend who said, why don't you start your own insurance company? And of course, I looked at him and said, you're out of your mind. And 6 months later, we started our own insurance company. We found a couple of guys that were friends of ours here in Atlanta that have been in the auto insurance industry for about 20 plus years each, and asked them how to do it. And they said, no, we want to be your co-founders. And so there are 4 co-founders in Mile Auto. We all have deep insurance and technology and data expertise. And that's how we got the company started.
And so now you're an insurance company who is kind of leveraging this odometer data to serve your customers, to give them, the best possible pricing.
That's correct. Yes. So we are currently live in Georgia, in Oregon, Illinois, and Arizona. And by the end of July, we'll launch Ohio and Texas as well. We intend to expand throughout all 50 states.
And then, so you're trying to get more just regular folks to switch their insurance to you guys.
We love regular folks, again, and they don't have to change all of their vehicles. If they have a sports car that sits in the garage and gets driven on weekends, that's perfect for us. If they have kids at college and cars that sit in parking decks and parking lots and don't get driven, that's perfect. Or if somebody has a pickup truck that they drive to Home Depot once a month to pick up pine straw, that's ideal. People that are empty nesters, people who work from home. And, that was one of the things that we found during COVID. And of course, there were lots of issues with COVID and unfortunate circumstances and personal suffering. But, as people began to work more and more from home, they would look out the window of their house or their condo and say, why am I paying all of this money for car insurance? I'm not driving. And so we were very fortunate to get a lot of customers during the COVID times as people just weren't driving like they used to be.
And then the insurance companies were trying to get ahead of it by throwing a bone to everybody by sending them back $50 or some token amount.
Exactly. Yeah. And we had we did have a pause in our growth probably in 2000, April and May, as people were waiting for these refunds or rebates from their insurance companies. And, we had a number of people contact us and said, gee, I got my $7 rebate. I'm changing. I can save $50 per month with Mile Auto, why am I sticking with my traditional insurance company?
So now, what's the strategy behind partnering with the car companies, Ford and Porsche?
Yep. Yeah, thank you for that question. So Atlanta is an amazing community for a startup. And as we were building this company, we were approached by Porsche, whose U.S. headquarters or North American headquarters is here in Atlanta. And Porsche said, gee, we hear what you're doing. And most Porsche vehicles are low mileage. And we like the fact that you don't plug a black box tracking device in customers' cars, because we build performance vehicles. We build amazing performance vehicles and expect our customers to drive them as such. And so they approached us and said, if you will tweak your concept and your product specifically for Porsche drivers, then we will license the Porsche brand to you and assist you with marketing to all Porsche owners in the U.S. and the states where we're licensed to operate. So we pretty quickly said yes to Porsche. We launched our first product to market, which is called Porsche Auto Insurance. And we launched Porsche Auto Insurance in May of 2019. And then we launched our Mile Auto product first into market in September of 2019.
And then you just announced the Ford. Is that the Ford one?
So we did, yes. And so the Ford and the Porsche program are quite unique and distinct. So we have a very close partnership with Porsche and have built a tailored product for Porsche. The program with Ford is similar to some of the things that other automakers are doing since they have connected vehicles. Ford has a program with a variety of insurance companies entailing as anybody with a 2020 and newer Ford vehicle, their vehicle is connected. Ford has a program called the Ford Pass program. And so consumers can go on that website and choose to share their driving data with insurance companies. So companies like Allstate and State Farm are on there, but they invited us to be on that platform. And so our program with Ford is not exclusive, is not going to be branded a product by us using the Ford name. But it's a trend that you will see more and more in the marketplace. We're fond of Ford and the program that Ford has built, and they're certainly forward thinking as they've built that, but completely different from our intimate and close relationship with Porsche and what we have built specifically for Porsche customers.
And then moving forward, what do you need more of? Do you need more kind of insurance agents selling this to their customers? Do you need just more of the lay person realizing this is a choice?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that question. So we designed the product to be sold through independent agents. And most of our distribution today is through the digital insurance agency platforms. Consumers might know them as, companies like The Zebra, Answer Financial, Insurify, Compare.com. So when a consumer goes out to shop for insurance today, most consumers will go to the digital platforms and get quotes from various companies. In fact, some people ask me all the time, they say, Fred, don't you hate when you hear all the Progressive and State Farm and Allstate TV and radio commercials? And I'm like, no, I love those commercials because they convince consumers to go out and shop. And when a low mileage customer goes out and shops, they tend to find Mile Auto. So we like the agency platforms. We also work with brick and mortar agencies that you might find on in your corner shopping center. But we also sell directly to consumers via the mileauto.com website. So as more and more consumers hear about us, they will come directly to that website, go and get an online quote. They could quote and bind completely online.
Well, it's an amazing story, Fred. Congratulations on all the success.
Listen, we've got an amazing team. Our co-founders, Scott Nelson, Joe Fuller, and Jim Cook, have been incredible to work with. And we've got lots of insurance professionals on our team. So I do very little. They do all the hard and smart work. But we appreciate the opportunity and certainly love being in Atlanta. Atlanta's a great place to start a company.
And it's mileauto.com for more information?
That is it. Thank you. mileauto.com. Go get a quote today, Lee.
I'm going to check it out right now.
All right.
Well, thank you again for sharing your story.
Listen, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.